Welcome to Secret Agenda YouTube channel. Russia's aggressive war policy began on the territory of Ukraine and spread all over the world. Now we have entered the 10th month of this war, and the tide of the war has completely turned in favor of Ukraine. But this situation was reached as a result of long efforts of the Kiev army. We should not forget the military and financial support provided by the USA and Western countries to Ukraine. The Russian army, on the other hand, was in a very dominant position against the Ukrainian soldiers at the beginning of the war. However, the Russian troops, who fell into complacency over time, gradually began to return the Ukrainian lands they had occupied as a result of the struggles they entered on the Ukrainian fronts to their former owners. The Moscow administration, on the other hand, could not stand the passive position of its army in the face of this advance of the Ukrainian army. During this time, the Russian leader put forward the decision of mobilization as the only remedy. But this decision by Putin completely confused Russia. Upon the first day of the decision, a large part of the Russian local population left their country to avoid fighting in Ukraine. These Russian citizens, numbering in the millions, were against Putin's strategies in Ukraine from the very beginning. But the Russian leader's decision to mobilize was the last straw. Currently, the loss of troops of the Russian army under Putin's leadership is approaching 100,000. In order to compensate for these losses, the Russian leader first summoned 300,000 Russian citizens to the Ukrainian fronts. However, with the completion of the number, Putin did not issue any decree that would invalidate the mobilization. Russian citizens are quite angry with Putin because of the mobilization decision, which is claimed to be still ongoing. Protests still continue in Russia due to the Ukraine war and the mobilization decision. In addition, due to Putin's policies, military registration offices and government buildings in Russia are constantly targeted. In Russia, where fires and civil wars are experienced every day, people have to start every morning with bad news. That's why local Russian people seem to have run out of patience with Putin. Among those who lost their patience, the statements and actions of the mothers of the mobilized Russian soldiers turned the world agenda upside down. Now we leave you with the details of this event. An anti-war group claimed that Russian soldiers sent to fight in Ukraine under the partial mobilization of President Vladimir Putin were hiding from their mothers and wives. The Council of Mothers and Wives of Mobilized Russian Soldiers, a grassroots movement, has requested a meeting with Putin after the Kremlin said the Russian leader would speak to the mothers of men called to fight this week. The leaders of this group, on the other hand, announced that no member of the Council of Mothers and Wives was invited to the event, which is planned to be held on November 27th, Mother's Day in the country, according to Kremlin sources. Olga Sukhanova, an activist on this council and the mother of a conscripted Russian citizen from the Samara region of Russia, said, "Vladimir Vladimirovich, are you a man or what are you?" Sukhanova recorded these words on a video and posted them on social media. Olga Sukhanova also asked the Russian leader if he had the courage to meet with the women on the council. The shocking words of this soldier's mother continued. Sukhanova said, "At a meeting with women who were not specially chosen for you, do you have the courage to look straight into our eyes? Women you don't have in your pocket, but real mothers who have traveled here from different cities. Do you dare meet with moms who pay for their own travel expenses to meet you? We are here in Moscow and ready to meet with you. We are waiting for a reply from you. Will you continue to hide from us?" The words of this mother have gone down in history as the most striking sentences ever uttered since the beginning of the Ukraine-Russian war. Russian newspaper Vedomosti based a news report stating that Putin will meet with the mothers of the soldiers on 3 unnamed Kremlin sources. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov later confirmed this news. Peskov said, "Actually, such a meeting is planned. We can confirm this. Such a meeting is being prepared." A Kremlin spokesperson did not specify a place or time for the meeting, but announced that the meeting will take place this week. After this statement, Peskov also stated, "The president usually holds such meetings. Not all of them are open to the public. In any case, the president is getting first-hand information about the real situation." This announcement by the Kremlin comes after reports that Russian soldiers are facing growing opposition from their families to Putin's war in Ukraine. The biography of the Mothers and Wives Council on the Telegram channel calls for action together to protect the lives of their sons. The mothers who are members of this council wanted to convey this message to the Russian leader Vladimir Putin. On the Telegram channel of Layout, an independent Russian broadcast, it was reported that representatives of the council and another group, the Committee of Soldiers of Mothers, were not invited to Putin's meeting. Also, according to this publication, the Kremlin administration wants to pacify the patriotic movement of Russian mothers and stop the protests of relatives of soldiers. Layout said a source close to the Kremlin believes Putin will comment on the situation at a newly formed Mothers Association. However, the statements of this source were still not found in the media. The Institute for War Studies, a U.S. think tank, evaluated last week that Russian citizens, including mothers, are increasingly turning to various social media platforms to express their dissatisfaction with Putin's partial mobilization scheme. ISW noted that nearly 1,500 mothers of disabled children and mothers with more than 3 children at home have petitioned the Russian president to exempt their husbands from mobilization. The figure in Putin's partial mobilization decree has not been made public, although Russian defense officials stress that about 300,000 reservists and ex-military personnel with certain military specialties and relevant experience would be called upon to fight in Ukraine. After Russian mothers sent petitions to leader Vladimir Putin, numerous reports emerged that men ineligible for conscription were deployed as avthous in the Russian army. Russia's defense ministry claimed to have completed its partial mobilization on October 31st. But war-age men in Russia still hide for fear of conscription. Putin noted that about 80,000 mobilized citizens have been deployed in Ukraine so far, but about 50,000 of them surrendered to the Kiev army because they did not want to fight. The mothers of these Russian soldiers who do not want to fight now demand that this mobilization decision stop completely. In July, the mother of a Russian soldier killed in fighting in Ukraine stated that all mothers in Russia who send their sons to Ukraine will eventually rise up against Putin. Also, this Russian woman who lost her son in Ukraine underlined that most of the mothers blame the Kremlin for the ongoing conflict and the death of their sons. And a few days after the start of the war, Russian mothers accused the Kremlin of using their sons as cannon fodder. According to footage released by Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty in March, a Russian woman said, "We've all been tricked, we've all been fooled. Our children were sent there as cannon fodder. They are all young and unprepared." In this video footage, it was revealed that Russian women accused the governor of the Kemerovo region, Sergei Sivilev, of cheating on them and their son. Putin's meeting with the families of soldiers, confirmed by the Kremlin, is seen as an effort to preserve the image of the Russian president, who is sometimes accused of being out of touch and ridiculed for living in the bunker. For this reason, the mothers of the mobilized Russian soldiers are never invited to the meeting. According to Varska's source in the Russian parliament, Russian authorities decided not to invite members of well-known mothers' unions to the meeting because these activists were said to have acted too aggressively and loudly. Also, family members of the Russians mobilized from different parts of the country Varska met with do not know the family members of the soldiers who were invited to meet with the president. Since the end of October, family members of Russians mobilized in 15 regions of the country began to protest, demanding that their loved ones withdraw from the front and provide everything they need. After all these events, only one question appeared in the minds of Russian citizens. This question was recorded as, "When will Vladimir Putin give up this war of reputation and leave the Russian people alone?" Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications in order to be informed about new videos. Thank you for watching us.